Assalamu alaikum everyone. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. I welcome you all to our All Parliamentary Mental Health Summit, Young Adults Group. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. We would like to begin our program in the name of Allah. I would like to request Mr. Umair Hassan to please recite a few verses from the Holy Quran.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم نحن نقص عليك نبأهم بالحق إنهم فتية آمنوا بربهم وزدناهم هدى وربطنا على قلوبهم إذ قاموا فقالوا ربنا رب السماوات والأرض لن ندعو من دونه إلها لقد قلنا إذا شططا. Translation. We relate to you their story with truth. They were some young men who believed in their Lord, and we increased them in guidance. We solaced their hearts when they stood up and said, Our Lord is He who is the Lord of heavens and earth. We shall not worship any God beside Him. If we did so, then necessarily we uttered crossing the limit. तर्जुमा हम उनके हालात तुमसे सही सही बयान करते हैं। वो कई जवान थे जो अपने परवरदिगार पर ईमान लाए थे और हमने उनको और ज़्यादा हिदायत दी थी और उनके दिलों को मरबूत यानी मजबूत कर दिया। जब वो उठ खड़े हुए तो कहने लगे कि हमारा परवरदिगार आसमानों और ज़मीनों का मालिक है, हम उसके सिवा किसी को माबूद समझ कर ना पुकारेंगे। अगर ऐसा किया तो इस वक्त हमने बईद अकल बात कही। Sadaqallahul Azim.
Jazakallah. Thank you so much, Mr. Umair Hassan. I would now like to welcome my panelists and my session chairs, Professor Nusrat Hussain and Professor Ahmed Ejaz Masood. Amongst our panelists, we have Mr. Riaz Fatiana, who is MNA convener, SDGs Task Force member, Parliament of Pakistan. He is not with us today. He's in a recovery phase. We wish him all the best. Ms. Madhia Nasir, who is MPA Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. Mr. Shehzad Qureshi, who is MP Sindh Assembly, Mr. Professor Ahmed Ejaz Masood, who is Vice Chancellor, Nishta Medical University, Professor Najmi Ghani Haider, who is Head of Department of Computer Science and Information Technology. We have Professor Anila Kamal, who is Professor, Director, National Institute of Psychology at Quaid-e-Azam University. We also have Professor Naeem Laghari, Head of Psychiatry in Ishtar Hospital. Multan, we have Dr. Salman Shehzad, Associate Professor in charge of Research and Training Unit for Prevention Treatment of SUD. We have Ms. Asma Nadeen, who is a Senior Lawyer, Sindh High Court and Senior Executive Member of Human Rights and Legal Aid. We have Dr. Kareem Khan with us, who is Associate Professor, Department Head of Economics and Econometrics. We have Dr. Anila Maqsood, who is Head Department of Behavioral Sciences at Fatma Jinnah Women University, Rawalpindi. Dr. Bushra Malik, Associate Professor, Department of Psychology at International Islamic University. Dr. Muhammad Bilal, who is Head of Department at Fatma University, Women University Law, Fatma Jinnah Women University, Rawalpindi. Dr. Umar Farooq, who is Chairman Department of Food Science and Technology at University of Agriculture, Multan. We have Dr. Inti Qureshi with us, who is a senior lecturer at University of Manchester and a consultant psychiatric in United Kingdom. We have Dr. Sadia Asim with us, who is research fellow at University of Manchester and at NHS Foundation Trust. We have Professor Muhammad Anisul Haq, Head of Department of Psychology at NUML University, Mr. Hassan Abbasi, President Pak Youth Assembly, Dr. Ishrat Rizwan, Assistant Professor, Kast University, Islamabad, Professor Madiha Malik, Vice President, Pakistan Society of Pharmacy Practice, Hamdard University of Pharmaceutical Sciences, University of Hamdard. We have Mr. Yar Muhammad Khan Niaz, who is a social media expert and Chairman Zakat and Usher Committee, District Bannu. We have Professor Atikur Rahman with us, who is Mr. Atikur Rahman with us, who is Professor Director at, who's a Project Director at Hamza Foundation Welfare Hospital, Peshawar. Dr. Munazza Ubaid, who is an Assistant Professor, Community Medicine at Dow University of Health Sciences. And last but not the least, Ms. Lubna Khan, who is our PPIE lead at Pakistan Institute of Living and Learning. I welcome you all to the summit today, and we are very thankful to you for joining us. Some of you have already joined us, and with the passage of time, the rest remaining will join us also. Moving ahead, this is our sequence of events. Over here, I would like to request Professor Naseem Chaudhry, CEO of Pakistan Institute of Living and Learning, to please start with the session and step in place of Professor Nusrat Hussain, who has come across, who has had a bereavement in his family today. So, Professor Naseem Chaudhry, if you could please start with the session. Ma'am, your mic is mute.
Thank you, Sami. I'd like to start with offering my condolences to Professor Hussain and his family, who only this morning has had a bereavement. And I think it just tells us about his commitment and dedication to this cause, that despite his grief, he's with us today. So thank you, Nusrat. I would too want to welcome, I mean, it's an amazing mix of experts. I'm really, really excited for this session. This welcome is on behalf of my organization, Pakistan Institute of Living and Learning, Mr. Riaz Fatiana, and the University of Manchester. What I would like to do is, I would like to remind some of you who were there at our first event and fill in those of you who were not there, that this is the second event or a discussion session on our early adult group. The first session was held at the Mental Health Summit, which was held earlier in this year in March. The summit was also organized by my organization, University of Manchester, and Mr. Riaz Fatiana. It was hosted by the President of Pakistan, Honorable Dr. Arif Alvi, and the inaugural session was at the President House. Following the inaugural session, we met as a group of early adults. So, our first session was at the Pakistan Institute of Parliamentary Affairs. We discussed some themes came out, and I'll briefly later on tell you a little bit about what was discussed and what came out. Magar, during the summit, we were tasked to develop Pakistan's mental health strategy and implementation plan for 2020-2030. But we have to present this to the Parliament by October 2021. So this is a fantastic opportunity for us to be able to suggest things, maybe, you know, make change. So I think the whole point of everyone gathering today, the previous time, and hopefully soon in the future, is that we can have a robust plan that we can then present to the Parliament. But our journey really started even before March. We initially met in September of 2019. This was a group of senior psychiatrists, Pakistan se bhi or UK se. We met at the Royal College of Psychiatrists, or That meeting was chaired by Professor Lewis Appleby, who is the former Czar for Mental Health UK. And Mr. Riaz Fathiana flew all the way for that meeting to UK. So I really want to recognize Mr. Riaz Fathiana's tremendous support for this work. वो ना सिर्फ इस कॉज को पार्लियामेंट से लीड कर रहे हैं, but he's been extremely supportive throughout the process. So like Sameen said, unfortunately, he's recovering from COVID, so he's not here, but we've got a recorded message from him. So I'll request Sameen कि we would hear his message and then a brief clip from the Mental Health Summit कि आप लोगों को थोड़ा सा idea हो. So over to you, Sameen. Sameen, I think कोई आवाज clear नहीं है. While we sort this, could we have the summit video in the meantime? कि इसको sort जब तक हो.
Yeah, yeah. I think हमको voice का problem है, so but it does give the message of the background.
Anyways, it was just music, Nusrat, in this.
Okay.
So just a second.
That's fine.
So if you remember, we were together in London last year in 2019. That was a wonderful event organized by you people. And I presented there a paper on mental health. Today, this is a pride for us that we all are together again, because state of mental health is very important in this country, you know, especially post COVID-19, and even not post COVID, still situation is going on, and there is another threat that we may increase patients of COVID-19. During, if you remember, during a London session, there was a conversation on suicide and after effects. Previously in Pakistan, at present, our law is very outdated, and if somebody survives, then police is ready to capture him or her. So I also moved a bill in amendment that rather than to police arrest the person who is also ready to die, and he should be sent to jail or in prison or in police station, it will be better that he should be referred to a counseling center to give him psychological and social support and community support and family support. Anyhow, with passage of time, we hope due to your technical and moral and comprehensive support, Pakistan's parliament is working on this. So
okay, so I think people did understand that you're so supportive of this work. Moving on, from the strategy and implementation plan, एक और फायदा ये होगा कि Pakistan, we will try and, you know, it'll help Pakistan achieving its SDG goals. We know that in 2015, all United Nations countries signed the SDG Plan for Sustainable Human Development by the year 2020, 2030. Pakistan is also a signatory. Unfortunately, हम अपने targets SDGs के बहुत पीछे हैं अभी. There's evidence to support that social determinants are directly related to or influence mental health. These factors can include things like poverty, relationship issues, finance, poor housing, migration. These determinants not just affect the prevalence, but also the severity of mental disorders. SDG 3, mental health and well-being is included in SDG 3, and there is enough evidence to support that 13 of the 17 SDGs are related to mental health. So a very useful piece of work was done by Lund and his colleagues. They did a systematic review of reviews looking at social determinants and mental health. Can we have the next slide, please? So they developed a conceptual framework where they divided the social determinants into 5 different domains, which included demographic, economic, neighborhood, environmental, social and cultural factors, and they aligned these with different SDGs. Now, their work did not include any work from Pakistan. So what we have taken upon ourselves is that looking at these domains, we've started doing systematic reviews so that we can understand the needs and implications of this for our population. So you will be hearing from our young researchers, जिन्होंने ये preliminary काम शुरू किया है in looking at the research evidence on these different domains. So over to you, Samin, so we can start with the research evidence. Prior to that, from our first meeting and what we've got in mind in terms of a framework for the mental health policy and implementation plan, these are the 7 main areas that we want to focus on. I mean, patient and public involvement and engagement, PPIE work. We've got Lubna Khan, who's leading our work with us today. And this is hugely important for our organization and the work that we do. I mean, unless we understand the needs of the people, we won't be able to have a robust or relevant strategy. We need to understand currently what kind of health services are available. So asset mapping. No policy is complete unless we understand social, human, and legal rights of our people. हमें research evidence collect करना है, capacity and capability build करनी है, because we know कि mental health professionals at the level of psychiatrists तो कम हैं. So we'll need to build the capacity of हमें अपनी health workforce को develop करना है. We need to understand what is the budgeting of mental health और हमें कहाँ से ये financing होगी, where will the money come for if we want to improve services. And SDG 17 talks about partnerships and collaborations. And today is an example of this work that we are meeting together. And I don't know if Nusrat, if you want to add something on this.
Bilkul, and we would need all the help. The task is so huge. So without collaborations and partnerships, it would not be possible.
Okay, so Samin, back to you so that we can hear about the evidence.
Thank you so much, Professor Naseem and Professor Nusrat. I would now like to request Ms. Zebunissa to please proceed with her presentation. Ms. Zebunissa.
Can I just let the audience know that this is very preliminary. ये बिल्कुल काम शुरू हुआ है. So it's to initiate the discussion. ये हमारे young colleagues have come forward. तो उनकी capacity building भी है और ये बहुत ही preliminary work है. Go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum. I am presenting the preliminary findings of demographic factors of Sustainable Development Goals. Ms. Samin, next slide, please. Demographic factors is mainly based on age, gender, ethnicity, and sex. The demographic factors are very important to enhance the well-being of young adults, as we all know that young adults are in the growing age. Their mental health is very important component of their growth. These components are at the same time this for some people and protective for the others, depending on the other relating factors. Demographic factors are mainly related to SDG 5, that is gender equality, empower all women, because evidence supports that females are more prone towards distress at this age. Ms. Amin, next slide, please. There are two main review questions. First is exploring the risk factors that are associated with mental health disorders or distress among Pakistani young adults. And the second review question is focused on the intervention strategies that enhance the well-being of young adults and reduces the psychological distress. Ms. Amin, next slide, please. Here is a prisma diagram that describing the complete picture of the systematic review. Initially, we identified 947 records. After the removal of duplicated records, 930 left. Titles and abstracts are screened from the 930 records and 215 meeting the inclusion criteria. After reviewing the 215 articles, 189 excluded because most of the articles not meeting the age criteria. Some of them are not Pakistani studies and some are multiple countries data. There are few qualitative studies focusing on the other factors and some are protocols and neurological studies also excluded. Total full text 26 articles included in this systematic review, and the findings is based on these 26 articles. Ms. Amin, next slide, please. The evidence supports that in this age group depression, anxiety is very common among young adults, and the risk factors that increases it, such as age, gender. In Pakistan, male gender is more preferable as compared to females. A birth of a girl is not a considering good sample, and people giving more privilege to boys comparatively girls. Similarly, they have lack of social support. The another important component is lack of education. People suffer due to economic burden and financial instability. Career considered important for males, and we assume that females have to give priority to their families and children instead of their careers that lead them towards distress. The another important component of distress is school performance. In this age, school performance is a big hurdle for young adults. We want every child have to be perfect in every domain. Instead of considering that some are good in few areas and some are good in others. Like for example, we want every child is topper in mathematics instead of understanding that some are good in mathematics and some are good in art or any other subject. So where the risk factors are affecting the mental health of young adults, there are some protective factors as well that reduces the distress, such as family and peer relationship, parental support. The understanding parents are the booster of well-being of young adults. So the second review question is based on the intervention strategies. Literature evidences support that didactic therapy helps a lot to manage the stress and help to reduce the stressors. The another intervention strategy, mindfulness in slow prayers, is also effective for reducing the stress, as literature supports and explains that the gratitude is helping a lot to reduce the depression. The another evidence from the literature find that cognitive behavior therapy, that is CBT and LTP, learning through play, is also very effective for reducing depression. As well has conducted the LTP plus CBT study, and find its effectiveness in reducing depression among mothers. That's ended my side. Further will be continued in the discussion section. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Zaid. I would now like to request Professor Ahmed Ejaz Masood, Vice Chancellor, Nishtar Medical University, to please lead the discussion session, please. Sir, your mic is on mute. Professor Ahmed?
Any questions people would want to ask, suggest? How do we take this forward? Think about those 7 areas which were presented about the framework. Ke uske andar, what kind of things can we do with regard to doing further research in this area? Any comments?
I'm sorry. My camera is not working and I was unable to mute myself. Right. Continue, sir. I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Professor Saab. Inti Qureshi is asking a question. So, but passing back to you, Professor Saab.
Yes, excellent presentation. Yes, it's very good to think about risk factors for the development of mental health in children and adolescents, because as we know, between 70 and 80% of mental disorder emerges during that developmental period. So it provides a really good opportunity, thinking about the developmental trajectory of mental illness, to intervene before mental disorder becomes apparent. And by that I mean, if we can identify a cluster of children, young persons before they've developed mental disorder and intervene, it might have a huge economic cost effectiveness, because you're preventing long-term disorder from developing. And the risk factors presented by I forget who the presenter was, I do apologize, but we have to consider biological factors. My research interest is in biological psychiatry, and we have to think even before about pregnancy and diet, maternal diet, and maternal experiences of stress and trauma in particular. So I was wondering what Professor Dr. Ahmed has to say about that, and hear from the other attendees about how we can capture, in terms of undertaking an epidemiological survey in Pakistan, for example, collecting data on diet, nutrition, trauma, and also this concept of access to green space. So we know that, you know, children need outdoor activity, and exercise in particular is linked to good mental health.
I think there is a lot of work to be done on all these aspects, particularly in young people. अब हमारे यहाँ तो ये सिचुएशन है कि लोगों को ना एजुकेशन का पता है, ना डाइट का पता है, वो जो खा रहे हैं बस उसी पे चलता है. So we have to educate most of them. There are certain areas in Pakistan where they are lacking everything. Even drinking water is not there, proper drinking water. What to say of other things during pregnancy or other time? We can do lots of work on it, or I appreciate your thinking and your efforts that we should continue with these things. In Multan, in my Nishtar Medical University, our hospital, the variety of patients coming to us are from different areas. This Multan is no doubt in the southern Punjab area, but people are also coming from Balochistan, from Sindh province, from KPK, and even from Waziristan. So we are having lots of patients, and you can have lots of data regarding, even if I gave my students one idea, that just see how the oral hygiene is. what they are eating, why they are lacking teeth in their mouth. जब तक मुंह में दांत नहीं होंगे उनकी खुराक हजम कैसे होगी, उससे कैसे खाएंगे. So psychologically, what to say of all these things? So we can have lots of things and lots of data collection from there. I am ready to give everything for these matters because this will give us new generation of people. Once we cover all these things, so future generation हमारी बहुत अच्छी हो जाएगी.
Assalamu alaikum. Can I comment something, please?
Yes.
Okay. Very good presentation. I'm Dr. Matiha, and what the previous Dr. Rizwan said, I just wanted to add one thing, that one of the major issue in the young adult is also of eating disorders, which has been neglected in Pakistan. We did a survey in 2 to 3 cities of Pakistan, and we found that while screening the young adults, 7% of the total sample size had that binge eating disorder. And the major issue was when we did a qualitative study to ask their parents that are they aware of this eating disorder in among their children. So it was really very disappointing to see that the parents or the caregivers were not. And that has led to basically body shaming among the young children or the adults, even the girls, and that was putting an immense pressure on them, which was one of the leading cause of anxiety or depression among them. So I would like to suggest that even if we could, replicate, or we can plan a survey specifically on eating disorders and the kind of body shaming kind of stuffs in Pakistan, because what we have identified that one of the major, you can say, the aggravating factor for depression and anxiety among the young children or the teenagers is the, body shaming and all that kind of stuff. So I just wanted to suggest this.
Yes, no doubt in it. Definitely, this is also one of the reasons we have to do lots of survey over here. So come up with these proposals and we can go for these surveys. Meri university har waqt tayar hai. If you want anything from me, we are ready to do it. You just come up with some proposals. One thing I'm sorry I didn't say, Professor Naimullah Lagari, unfortunately his father died 2-3 days back. And that is the reason that he's not here.
We're sorry to hear that.
Yes, Dr. Anila, you want to say?
Yeah. Assalamu alaikum. I would like to comment on the kind of discussion we are going through. I mean, when it's about looking for research evidence in context of Pakistan, being a mental health practitioner and behavioral analyst, I believe that our universities, they are hub of generating research evidences. We have a lot of research. And if I talk about my department, Department of Behavior Sciences at Fatima Jinnah Women University, most of our research, and I think more than 98% research is concentrating on mental health and well-being. And we are looking at risk factors. We are looking at how to promote mental health and well-being in multiple contexts. Specifically coming back to the topic of like how can we promote mental health of young people and adolescents, if we look at the mechanisms and the kind of system we have currently in our Pakistan, we need to identify the institutions where we need to work, not only from theoretical point of view, but also in terms of how to push up policy implications in order to have a very systematic system within our country. I have conducted a lot of studies in context of school, college and university environment. And if you look at academic system as an institution, perhaps there is a huge space. How can we install and how can we have a sort of very systematic system in our schools, which ultimately will help us to promote mental health and well-being of adolescents. And coming back to my own research work, I have disseminated trainings to, more than 1,000 teachers within school level and within college level, with this perception that when we talk about helping students or helping young people to have a very healthy mindset, this is only possible when we look at what kind of environment they're surviving in. And if you look at the time which mostly young people and all of us who used to spend within our academic institutions, we spend a peak quality time at our institutes. And we have a lot of influences coming from our teachers and coming from other people who are around us. So why not to train all those people who are responsible to manage and who are responsible to educate our youth? And specifically talking about teachers, they have like tremendous influence the way our students, they can shape up their thoughts, they can have a sort of like certain life philosophy about it. So I was with this idea that of course we do need a very comprehensive system of having mental health programs in our schools, in our universities, and there must be mental health practitioners, and there must be counselors and psychologists who should be, supporting individuals for providing counseling. But ultimately, if we look at our resources, we have to be very realistic. This is not at all possible. And there is no one single strategy that we can promote health within a day or within a night. It's a huge, it's a continuous process, and we need to look for all those possible factors. For example, I was with this idea, and this idea actually gained international recognition as well. I developed a model, and this model was about training teachers. If I highlight the title, you can relate it very well. It was about training of teacher adolescent counselor training model. And with this thought that perhaps it will take a long way to hire proper psychologists in all of educational systems of Pakistan. So why not to train our teachers? Why not to empower them? And why not to help them that they should be able to have a very positive relationship with their students? They should be able to help students to have a level of self-awareness. They should be helping them to learn decision-making skills. They should help them to have a level of self-awareness, which ultimately will help them to deal with all those issues which are really important in terms of managing their emotional, social, and interpersonal problems. So it's about empowering our teachers so that they can, because if all of these problems, they stay unresolved, if students, they're unable to deal with their interpersonal and their academic, their career related and their social and interpersonal issues, if these problems, they are unresolved, ultimately these are major risk factors which are leading them towards experiencing mental health and well-being issues. And looking at the kind of research which we
Dr.
are doing,
Anila, I'm sorry. I'm really, I apologize to interrupt you. We're short of time. I'm just conscious of it, and maybe we could continue with this discussion in the second session.
Right.
My apologies.
Sameen,
this is fine.
Yes, sir.
I agree with Dr. Anila, and I think we should continue with the next session. And this is very valid point that we should educate the teachers so that the kids, they should come up with good ideas and good health, mental health. Okay, go for the next session.
Thank you so much, sir. Dr. Salman, we'll take your...
Dr. Salman has a question.
So we'll take his question in the second session if you don't mind.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you so much. I would now like to invite Ms. Amna Nori to please present.
Assalamu alaikum everyone. I'm Amna Nori. I'm Operations Manager and Research Associate at Pakistan Institute of Living and Learning and PhD scholar. Today, I'll present the preliminary findings of a systematic review titled as Neighborhood Determinants of Mental Health Among Young People in Pakistan, the Sustainable Development Goals, a systematic review. Next, please. Next, please. Neighborhood condition, it is basically defined as characteristic of an area or community that convey risk for or protection from mental illness and what is attributable to individual characteristic of community members, such as safety, deprivation at the neighborhood level, access to recreational facilities,
So do we have Amna with us?
I don't think so. Osman, do you want to pick it up and take it from here?
Sure, I can.
Osman, please unmute your mic.
Just a second. I'm just trying to. Okay, on which slide we were?
What type of neighborhood review questions?
Okay. So in our systematic review, we have been focusing on, like the previous one, about neighborhood conditions which are associated with mental health disorders in young adults in Pakistan. And secondly, we are also looking for interventions specifically for the neighborhood domain, which are like more access to facilities, which we are talking about, recreational, which Dr. Inti Qureshi has mentioned also. So all these factors which we were discussing are being focused in this area. And during our searches, we have found 388 articles, which are very preliminary. We have searched only 3 databases. We are going to go for more than 3 other databases, including Pakistani databases also, that is Pakistan, Pak.Medinet. And while when we removed our duplicates, there were 383 articles, and after inclusion
My net get disconnected.
Okay, Amna, you would need to take it on from the Prisma diagram now.
So should I complete it, or she can continue from the findings?
Yeah, can I continue from Prisma diagram? Yeah, okay. So so before going into explain the Prisma diagram, I'll just highlight it here that it's just the narrow searches we have done. And because of it's just the preliminary findings we are discussing here. So once we complete the searches of all databases, then we will share with you the final findings in the next session in March. So we did the preliminary finding. Record identified were 388. And we have done, there were 2 independent reviewers who have done the screenings. So we have removed the duplication, and after removal, the number was 383. Title and abstract screen were 383, and 356 record were excluded after title and abstract screening. So the included abstracts and title were 39, and there were 25 studies which were fulfilling the inclusion criteria. And the studies which were excluded on the basis of title and abstract, there were 14 studies which were excluded. And the reason for exclusion were, there were 3 studies which were not in age range. 1 study, it was a study protocol. There were 9 studies which were not from Pakistan. And 1 study, we have not got the full article for it. Next, please. So you can see in the preliminary finding, there were 25 articles we got. So for the first theme, risk factor of depression among students, there were 13 articles, and it was about the risk factor of food insecurity, smoking habits, alcohol intake, disturbed family environment, parental abuse, trauma, and violence. That if there is any kind of stressful life event or early childhood physical abuse, a disturbed family environment, which could include maternal depression, or if there is a parental style of permissiveness in which there are very few or no rules, no expectation, and no demands. So such kind of parenting style tend to, in which the child struggle with self-regulation and self-control, and also they have poor social skills and problematic relationship. The second theme is about bullying, victimization, and stigmatization. There were 7 articles we got for it. So it was linked about that there is a cumulative factor of structural factors such as poverty, social factor, such as bullying in any form that could be on the basis of race, color, religion, that increase the odds of reporting depressive symptoms, and that could also include the verbal abuse, physical fight, physical abuse, and stigmatization. The next, there were 3 articles we got for the social support as a protective factor, that high parental environment in which the parents try to understand the troubles the child is facing, and those who have the close friendship that is associated with the positive mental health outcome, and it is negatively correlated with psychological distress. There were two studies we got for the intervention, that school mental health program. It shows positive result, and the school mental health program succeed in improving awareness of mental health in school children and community. So, and school children were receptive to the program. So that's why the preliminary finding shows that the mental health planner who wish to improve community awareness of mental health should consider setting up school mental health programs. And also, there were recommendations in such studies, although it's just a preliminary finding, but what we got from 1 or 2 database, that similarly effort to reduce mental health problem in schools. And it was recommended that there is a dire need of counselors, there should be a helpline, and the intervention should address certain risk factors of food insecurity and poverty that could impact adolescents' mental health outcome directly or indirectly, and we should bring into regional and national focus, and it should be included in the wider national program. That's it from my side. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Amna. I would now like to request another discussion session to be led by Professor. Sir, please kindly, if you could, Professor Ahmed. I'll just.
G. I'm sorry. So let's take the previous question first. I think we'll discuss the first one. Dr. Salman wants to say something.
G.
Thank you so much, sir, for the wonderful opportunity. I just dropped my text in the chat section. So my concern was that unfortunately we are unable to translate the research into practice. Most of the people and the professional who are practicing in their respective field are not conducting research. And there are not a lot of research conducted here in Pakistan, but few, especially at the academicians and the few researchers are conducting especially on the mental health and the substance use issues. It's my humble request if we conduct the epidemiological survey. The epidemiological survey at the national level is the part of the strategic prevention framework. And if taken an example of the United States, they have a wonderful program, the strategic prevention framework. And first we need to develop the capacity building of our professionals, that at the primary level, secondary level, or tertiary level. So based on the SPF, we can save the time. It is a cost-effective way, and as well as if you want to prevent and promote the mental well-being and prevent the mental health issues and the suicide and the substance use. So this is the wonderful program, and we can use these things here in Pakistan too. And thanks to the PIL and under the leadership of Professor Nusrat, so they have taken an initiative to conduct an epidemiological survey here in Pakistan. So let's see what can be the findings, and based on these findings, we can develop some intervention. Especially earlier, I had a discussion with the Professor Nusrat regarding the youth prevention program, especially the screening, brief intervention, and referral for treatment. We don't have here in Pakistan. We are using certain intervention, but we don't know what kind of intervention these are. But these interventions are not the evidence-based. So again, it's very important. Bringing scientific knowledge, research finding, and empirical supported evidences into the practice is very important. Thank you so much.
Right. Dr. Bilal, Mohammed Bilal, you want to add something?
Yeah, thank you so much, Amna, for such an interesting presentation. Just a suggestion or a point to ponder about. Neighborhood is certainly remained a very important concept as far as the mental health is concerned, and how, for example, neighborhood play a very pivotal role in constructing certain kind of attitudes. But if we see both anthropological and sociological studies or researches as far as the past is concerned, usually these are the poor neighborhood that are associated with the negative activities. However, if we see particular case of Pakistan, even there are certain kind of particular substance abuse which are associated with the elite communities or the elite neighborhoods. So this concept of space and this concept of geographies and this concept of a locality probably needs to be investigated further as a grassroots concept, that how a particular space inculcate a particular kind of attitude towards mental health, instead of taking it for granted that poor neighborhood will inculcate a certain kind of attitude, and then we create a binary between the poor and the elite neighborhoods. Thank you.
Right. Any other question to be discussed?
I just wanted to raise a point, just a comment that a lot of risk factors that we're seeing, from what Imti pointed out and repeatedly coming, and Bilal has just alluded on them as well. And in terms of poverty elimination, I mean, a lot of these are because of poverty. No water, nutrition, education. So how do we, I mean, a third of our population is already living below poverty. And which is, I mean, I'm sure there are many more. 1/3 is a figure that's the stats. So how do we address this? How do we address the poverty, which can then maybe the nutrition improves, the education improves? That's just a point to ponder, and what do we do and how do we do it? Because even in our framework, we've got finances and budget, and how are we going to do what we are going to do if we want to make a difference? Just a point I want to make.
Professor Naseem, I would just say, let's start. Once we start, it will go on. And gradually and steadily we can do it. That's only the thing I would say. If we are waiting that how can we do it, we can do it. God is with us. He'll help us. Let's start. That's my only view, that waiting for the time is not good. Let's start it. And we should work on it, and everybody is going to help us.
Can I give an economist perspective?
Yeah.
And the question of Professor Naseem.
Yeah, please.
Okay.
Okay, I am Kareem. Professor Naseem has raised a very good question, in particular from the perspective of poverty. So every third household is like poor. So there are two perspectives in this regard. One is like provide social protection. जिस तरह मतलब ये कि Benazir Income Support Program is providing some sort of social protection, but actually the coverage rate is very low as compared to the poverty level in Pakistan. Also, the charity, or you can say the informal donation, is covering their part. But actually, what is most reasonable strategy from the perspective of economics? I really suggest we need projects. We need projects to involve these people. Or you can say that we need some sort of participatory development, not zakat. Matlab ye ki zakat is not the solution. Actually, the solution is give them opportunities. Give them opportunities to learn, give them opportunities to take themselves out of poverty, and give them a market-based solution, not some sort of protection. Protection is a short-term strategy. A long-term strategy would be to make them out of poverty, and that is the best. And the best solution is we need good projects to involve them in some sort of participatory development. Thank you.
Professor Ahmed, can I make a comment?
Yeah.
Yes. I understand poverty has strong association with mental disorders, but we have got to look at, we are not a low-income country. It cannot, we cannot put it on poverty that we are in the top in neonatal mortality, stillbirths. This should not be accepted. These are some things, another 100 countries are better than us who are far lower income. Their education is far better than us. So I think, mashallah, we have got resources. And like Professor Ahmed is also saying, make a start. And that's why we are talking about the framework of 7 different areas. Is for people to be able to mobilize from patient public to the top level of policymakers. So I think that should come later, that we would have our limitations. But whatever we have, mashallah, right now, we can make a leap much forward, we would be able to do that.
Just a point on that, Nusrat. I think we need to look at the strengths, joint family systems, social support. बार-बार आता है कि they are protective factors. So हम जब कुछ कर रहे होते हैं, we are just looking at क्या नहीं है, but we forget what strengths we have. We have to involve our families. We have to use this joint family system strength that we have.
Can I make a small comment on this? Just from this point of view, for joint and individualistic society, the ongoing discourses are also where we need people who can put all these findings into practice, because media is very prevalent in the ongoing feministic perspectives, etc. From all those discourses, the impression being given to the younger generation is that individualistic, probably living alone without parents or without family, joint families, is better. So maybe all these findings which which is coming out of literature are needed to be put into practice, and these are needed to be disseminated on a much larger level towards all these people, which are more influential, who can reach more people, etc. Or maybe we ourselves, mental health practitioners, needs to do that. So that's one thing.
So with your permission, may we proceed to the next presentation?
Yes, definitely. Start it.
Can I just quickly welcome our MPA Shahzad Qureshi? उन्होंने late join किया है, but a huge welcome to you, sir.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Now I would like to welcome Mr. Mohsin Hassan Alvi to please present.
Assalamu alaikum all. I'm Mohsin Alvi and I'm research fellow in health economics, and today I'm going to present a systematic review, and it's based on the Sustainable Development Goal, and the title of the review is Economic Determinants for Mental Health in Young People in Pakistan. Next, please. Okay. This review is based on the 5 Sustainable Development Goals, and it includes the goal 1 is poverty alleviation. Number 2 is the reduction in the hunger. The goal 8 is decent work and economic growth. It refers to the employment status of a person and the working environment. The number 4 is goal 9 is industry, innovation and infrastructure. It refers to the industry transformation and revolution. And the last is goal 10. It refers to the reduced inequality in terms of monetary aspect. The question of the review is what are the economic risk factors that leads to mental health problem, and is there any intervention available in a market who will cope up these mental health problems in Pakistan? Next, please. Okay. We hypothesize that the key economic factor leads to the mental health outcomes, and the key economic factors are categorized under the micro and macro level. Micro level includes the food insecurity, household expenditure, financial debts, unemployment, financial strain, and the macro level includes the income inequality and economic recession. These factors will lead to the mental health outcomes and the common psychological disorders in Pakistani youth that may include suicide, depression, bipolar disorder, PTSD, and so on. These key factors were put into different electronic database, and we have got the result from there. Next, please. Yes. We have got 3,408 records were identified, and after removal of the duplicacy, we have got 3,232 records. And after screening the titles and abstract, we have got only 4 studies to be included in the review, only 3 studies, and rest of them were excluded due to certain reasons. Next, please. Okay, here are some narrow focus preliminary findings. This may include number 1, that it indicates that technology reduces the social association of cost, but it leads towards the low self-esteem and the life satisfaction. another finding shows that the total inpatients cost of the depression in the Pakistani youth is around 472,000 Pakistani rupees. And the last evidence belongs to the dental industry that indicates the importance of the dental service. Like people have very little affordability of this service. So due to it's expensive in nature, and the poor oral health leads to some common mental health problems. Next slide, please. These slides include such rich information. I will prefer to move along with the indication of the presenting part. The left part shows some significant stats of the education in Pakistan that may include under the discussion. Pakistan is near to the worst performing country in the education sector. Current national stats highlighted that around 22.5 million children are missing the schools, and the girls contribute hugely in these stats. So followed under the category of primary, secondary, and the 9th grade, as mentioned here. So on the other hand, some glimpses of the present economic condition of Pakistan has also been tried to present. The Pakistan is struggling with severe economic hurdles due to the lockdown related economic recession right now. So the recession is likely to be stabilized, the current rate of inflation to 11.5% from the 10.5 in the previous year. So these financial strains lead to the suicide among the local citizens, as many cases were reported in these critical times. Next slide, please. While measuring the economic burden of mental health disorder, we need to consider its component like direct, indirect costs related to the mental health care service. Aga Khan University study explains the economic burden of mental health around 240 billion Pakistani rupees. And with the rising rate of inflation around 29% from the year of back to 2006, we are estimating this figure somewhere around 5.5 million United States dollar in the end of the 2020. So in intervention regarding this domain, presented in the right side, induction of the mental health training program at primary care unit, this will reduce the patient cost of treatment, and it showed the significant reduction in the study that was held in Pakistan, in Rawalpindi and in the Bangalore in the India. Moreover, CMAP is abbreviated the culturally manual assisted problem solving intervention, and it's found the cost-effective intervention for the prevention of the self-harm on a ground of 222 participants in a trial conducted in Karachi. So now with the same intervention on a youth of the population, that we have a larger multi-central trial now at implementation stage, alhamdulillah. So these costs are comparable somewhere around with the different standards of the world, like NICE guideline and WHO guidelines and the Canadian agencies, that somewhere around 20,000 to 30,000 GBP. So this cost is comparable with these agencies. Our attempt is significant, not only because it's a pioneer step towards the calculating the cost effectiveness of this domain, but also it refers to the suicide that is declared the second, the leading cause among the adolescents by one of the UNICEF report. And thank you very much. This is the end of my presentation.
Thank you so much, Mohsin. I would now like to request the discussion session to be led by Dr. Karim Khan, who is the Associate Professor and Head of Department of Economics and Econometrics. Dr. Karim Khan, if you could please unmute your mic, sir.
Thank you, Samin. Thank you, Nusrat Saab and team for inviting me to the session. Actually, I will talk from three perspectives of the micro causes which could cause mental stress or mental tension. So the first one is food insecurity. Almost every third child in food is food insecure in Pakistan. Likewise, on average, on each household head, the number of dependents is above 4 individuals. Both of these statistics imply that household heads or parents might have significant mental burden due to feeding their dependents or providing other amenities of decent life. Similar is the case with the spending patterns in Pakistan. Although the spending patterns is different for different income categories, but actually I would talk from the perspective of lower income group, lower middle class and upper middle class. So the first category of spending for all these groups is spending on food items, rents and utilities. Among these income groups, the most vulnerable group with respect to this item is lower income group. Alternatively, households and lower income brackets are facing difficulties in providing food items to their dependents. And similar is the case with respect to utilities and rents. As I told you earlier, the ISP is providing some cushion to these households, but actually it is not sufficient. In particular, the coverage rate is very low. Similarly, charity or informal donation are covering part of these vulnerabilities, but actually we have significant evidence with respect to mental illness or suicide ratio as far as the head of or responsible of the vulnerable household is concerned. The second category of spending is spending on education and health. Pakistan has a bipolar system of education and health. Lower income bracket has no option except availing the opportunities which are provided by the public education and health system. As far as private schooling and private health facilities are concerned, the lower middle income is much vulnerable group in this regard. I mean, they want to send their kids to private school, but actually they cannot afford quality schools like Beacon House, etc. Likewise, they wish to avail the health facilities of the private sector, but actually they cannot afford Shifa International or Ali Medical Center, etc. So this type of vulnerability in the lower middle class might be a cause of mental illness among the heads of this income group. The upper middle class is some way or might the other afford this facility, but actually their mental illness might be caused by comparison with respect to cars, real estate, or construction of houses, etc. Of course, there might be many social or societal reasons beside these. The third one is unemployment. Unemployment may be a source of depression and frustrations or mental stress for unemployed people. But actually in Pakistan, on job stress, or you can say occupational stresses, most prevail in particular as the working environment is concerned. For instance, a recent study by the National Institute of Public Policy, which was conducted on bureaucrats, and the title is Bureaucrats Under Stress. Actually, they have taken the sample of 357 individuals, and the results show that majority of the respondents actually experience stress while doing their job, and that affects their decision making. In majority of the cases, the most prominent mental signs of stress are frustration, anxiety, and irritability. The key physical symptoms of stress are fatigue and strain in the neck and shoulders. Increased social isolation, short-temperedness, and lack of creativity initiatives are among the prevalent behavioral symptoms. So occupational stress is the third most prevalent reasons in Pakistan. So I summarize that the spending pattern, food insecurity, occupational stress are the most prevalent causes of mental illness in Pakistan. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Kareem. Sir, if you would allow, maybe proceed with the presentation, next presentation.
Yeah, go ahead, Samir.
Thank you, sir. So now I would like to request Ms. Foster Gill to please present. Ms. Foster. Foster, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Please.
Can you hear me?
Ji, Foster, we can hear you. Please begin.
Assalamu alaikum and a very good evening to all of you. I am Foster Gill, Research Assistant at Pakistan Institute of Living and Learning. Today I am going to present the preliminary findings, a systematic review related to environmental, risk, and protective factors for young people mental health in Pakistan and how these factors are related to sustainable development goals. Can we have the next slide? Environmental factors are those situations and circumstances which may interrupt normal functioning of an environment, in which environment cope with that disruptions by using its available resources. Those events can be natural hazards such as pandemic and epidemic, flooding, earthquakes, bomb blast, or internal displacements. Let me give you an example of a natural hazard, earthquake of 2005 and the man-made disaster bomb blast at Army Public School, Peshawar, which disrupted normal functioning of environment. Yes, here we can see the slide. Our focused review questions were, what are the environmental factors associated with mental health disorder, distress, conditions in Pakistani young adults, as well as we are looking for what types of interventions focused on environmental factors are potentially beneficial to reduce mental health disorders, distress, and conditions. Can we go to the next slide? Here, you can see the PRISMA diagram. We screened 329 articles. Out of 329 articles, only 30 fulfilled our inclusion criteria on abstract and title. Out of 30 articles, only 28 were excluded due to the multiple reasons, as you can see on the slide. And only 2 articles were included in the full text stage. Next slide, please. Here, 2 full text articles are included in the preliminary findings. Sorry, just a minute. The first is about the risk factors for mental health in young adults. Youth violence has a serious and lasting effect on the physical, mental, and social health of young people. Domestic violence and quality of home life as independent risk and protective factors. Everyday violence can lead towards the mental illness. Violence is more prone to post-traumatic stress disorder and depression among children. And then second article was about internally displacement, armed conflict, a risk factor for mental health. So the evidence shows that internally displacement people are more prone to PTSD, depression, anxiety, and stress because of their situations and circumstances. Then we have the therapies and interventions for how to cope with the mental health stress in the young people. Here are psychoeducation, stress management, behavioral therapy, and psychosocial support for bereavement. These all interventions can help the individual to live a better life. Thank you so much. This all was from my side. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Faster. Now I would like to request Professor Zainab Zadeh to please lead the discussion session.
Assalamu alaikum and hello to everyone. Thank you very much, Celine. I've been hearing a very interesting conversation and presentation so far. Thank you, Faster, for presenting this. This reminds me of my work while I was working for earthquake survivors in 2006 and 2005. So the intervention work was a reminder of that that you reflected on. Thank you very much for that. The points that have been raised so far related to poverty, how economic system and other issues, food, nutrition, all such issues could lead to mental health risk factors for young people. Here we are talking about all other environmental factors which could lead to mental health issues in youngsters. This helps us highlight or maybe discuss more on what environmental factors could, what type of effects environmental factors could have on youngsters' behavior. Mainly what we have observed or seen over the period of time is bullying, the aggression, such things that were discussed in the previous presentation as well. I just wanted to bring this here again so that we could more talk about psychological factors, because I've heard a lot about other factors here. So being a clinical psychologist, I thought maybe raising this point here for discussion, that how we can educate parents, teachers, people around us to help them understand what is the difference between bullying and being use of humor, because most of the time teachers around and authority figures around youngsters, what they do is in the name of humor and other being having lighter conversation, what they end up doing is they end up bullying or emotionally abusing children or youngsters. And it's just that they're not aware of that. They're not educated about it. So it's about helping people learn what are the right ways of identifying or distinguishing between these two things. So mainly talking about parenting trainings, having more of empathetic understanding trainings and such factors. So just wanted to raise that and open house for discussion for this as well. Yeah, thank you very much. So anyone who wants to add any point here with reference to this, I'll be happy to take. Yeah.
मैं आपकी परमिशन से प्रोफेसर ज़ैनब can I ask हमारे साथ ये अस्मा नदीम हैं एडवोकेट, आप कुछ कमेंट करें कि there was something about domestic violence also इसमें लिखा हुआ, is where are we in Pakistan with regard to interpersonal violence?
Yes, I'm Asma Nadeem by profession, and I'm a lawyer at High Court, and I deal a lot of these type of cases. हमारे पास अपनी एक हेल्पलाइन है 1098, जिसके ऊपर हम डिफरेंट केसेस लेते हैं, जिसमें चाइल्ड अब्यूज, वायलेंस अगेंस्ट वुमेन एंड मेनी अदर इश्यूज, राइट। तो 1098 एक ऐसी हेल्पलाइन है हमारी कि जिस पे कोई भी कॉल करे, चाहे वो देहात से, देही इलाके से, गांव से, विलेज से, क्योंकि और कुछ चीज़ आजकल है या नहीं, हर अमीर गरीब के पास मोबाइल ज़रूर है। अगर हम व्हाट आई फील कि अगर हम एक ऐसे सोशल कैंपेन चलाएं कि जो मैसेजेस के थ्रू या मीडिया के थ्रू, अगर आपका इतना अच्छा प्लेटफॉर्म है, आप इस चीज़ को आगे MPAs, कम्युनिटीज, सोसाइटीज़ और तमाम लोगों को इसमें इन्वॉल्व करें, तो हम बहुत अच्छा एक पार्ट अदा कर सकते हैं। इंस्टेड ऑफ डॉक्यूमेंट्री डिस्कशन, आई वांट टू डू समथिंग रियली एक्चुअल के अंदर, हम ऐसा ग्राउंड में कोई रूट से, ग्रास रूट लेवल से काम शुरू करें, जिसको हम इंशाल्लाह आगे ले जा सकें आपके साथ। थैंक यू।
अस्मा प्लीज ये क्लैरिफाई कर दें, ये 24 आवर है या इसका कोई टाइम है?
जी जी 24 आवर है। वहाँ लॉयर्स और हमारे ट्रेंड साइकोलॉजिस्ट, साइकेट्रिस्ट ट्रेंड होते हैं सब तमाम लोग, और वी ऑल लॉयर्स अवेलेबल देयर। हम लोग लॉयर्स भी अवेलेबल होते हैं 24 आवर्स, और different cities में all over Pakistan we have offices. You can just call, we are just one call away. 1098 is the national number of Madadkar helpline. Thank you.
Great, excellent. Nusrat, may I make a comment?
Professor Zainab Zadeh, yes, is the chair, but go ahead, yes.
Yeah, please.
Sorry, I do apologize.
Yeah, go ahead.
So there's lots of, so the presentations have been excellent. They've been really good, and I think they share a common theme. Perhaps we can start, I understand we have some political attendees, and I'd be very interested to hear about political engagement into this strategy, and move the discussion on, if I may, because there are two stark factors. One, as I understand it, the mental health budget in terms of GDP in Pakistan is less than 0.5%. And Nusrat will be able to talk about the equivalence of other lower middle income countries in terms of the amount of percentage of GDP that is spent on mental health. And the reason I want move it on to hear from our political attendees is because without political engagement, we can have all the ambition and goodwill in the world, but unless this is supported by money, by resource, and the other stark factor is that I understand there's one psychiatrist for every 100,000 people in Pakistan. So in the UK, the equivalent is 1 in 500. So so we can have all these really good ambitions and aims and drive, but we need to think about sustainability and generational growth. So one question we need to think about is how do we build sustainable teams in local communities? And I'm going to stop talking now. Thank you.
If Professor, I think he had to leave, isn't it? Our MPA had to leave. Professor Zainab, can I respond to this question?
Yes, please, sir.
And I think, Anthi, I think we have got wonderful resources with regard to people out there. Yesterday also, I heard our Prime Minister talking about that we are in the top 5 countries in the world in philanthropy. But it's about how do we use our resources. So at the moment, we have got this, this is being led by member of the National Assembly, who is a psychologist by background. So we are very fortunate to have that support. And if you would have seen that video in at the launch, the President of Pakistan is supporting it. And I think it's the responsibility of us to look at making the best of what is available. So like I did not know about this helpline. So that's why we talk about partnerships, collaborations, knowledge transfer. So there is a lot out there. Even if we start with that, I'm sure we have got, Professor Kareem Khan, a health economist, we're working in the UK as well. I've not seen these kind of groups, these kind of passion. And I was speaking to Dr. Madhya Malik yesterday from Hamdard University. The excellent work she's doing at the level of pharmacy technologists. The resources are there, and how do we mobilize those resources in collaboration and partnerships would be the answer.
Can I just make a point? Yeah. Can I make a point? The good work is there. People are doing, but they are in silos. Everybody's doing their little bit, and it stays with them. We are not connecting, like we were speaking, Professor Atif Rahman spoke about that. We will have to have a base where all this work comes together, and we need to have common platforms.
Ma'am, with your permission, may we please proceed to the next presentation? Professor Zainab?
Yes, yes.
Sameen, I want to say one thing.
Ji, sir, please.
Sameen and Dr. Ijaz want to say something.
Ji, sir, please.
मुझे एक मीटिंग में 4:30 जाना है, तो can I quit?
बहुत शुक्रिया, बहुत शुक्रिया.
I'm sorry,
your support is highly valued. And thank you very much for joining us. And this work has just started.
I'm ready to go all hands out.
Thank you. बहुत शुक्रिया, बहुत शुक्रिया.
जी, क्या कह रहे हैं?
हमारा जो है.
Sir, I'll be in touch with you.
बिल्कुल जी, बिल्कुल, इंशाल्लाह. खुदा हाफिज. खुदा.
I'm sorry, मुझे जाना पड़ गया, तो मैं माजरत कर रहा हूँ.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you जी, thank you. Okay.
Thank you. Okay, I would now like to invite Mr. Nawaz Khan to please present.
Assalamualaikum. This is Nawaz Khan. I am working with Pakistan Institute of Living and Learning as a research assistant. Now I am going to present the preliminary finding of a systematic review that is related to SDG, Sustainable Development Goal, focusing on socio-cultural risk or protective factor of young adult mental health in Pakistan. Please, next slide. Social and cultural aspects are defined as ways in which the organization of society, social interaction, and relationship. This factor may be protective or risk for mental health. For example, family, peer relationship, and social relationship. We know that we all need to discussion or share our problems with someone else. That could be family member or friends. If having good relation in family or friends, it will boost the psychological well-being. Oppositely, it will lead to psychological distress. Social relationships are need of everyone for healthy lives and well-being. Please, next slide. During the process of systematic review, we focused two review questions. First one was to identify social cultural factors associated with mental health disorder in young adults of Pakistan. Second was to look for psychological intervention which has potential positive impact on mental health of Pakistani young adults. Please, next slide. Now I will talk about Prisma diagram. Initially, we screen out 439 articles. Out of 439 articles, only 75 fulfilled our inclusion criteria on title and abstract stage. And out of these 75, 52 screen out because of not fulfilling our inclusion criteria. Reasons are as mentioned in slide. 8 were review articles, not meet age criteria, demographic domain, neurological disorder, especially epilepsy, not from Pakistan. So total 23 articles fulfill the criteria of our study. Please, next slide. Our findings are categorized in 3 domains. One is risk factor for depression and anxiety. Second is personality disorder. Third is protective factor. According to 14 articles, the risk factor of depression and anxiety among young adults are, according to Ministry of Planning and Development report, 29.5% people are below the poverty line. It is a huge number. It means 55 million people. As our findings showed, experience of poverty and working for money in childhood or adolescence. Physical, verbal, and sexual abuse are the cause of anxiety and depression in young adults. Lack of family support, parental permissiveness, high parental involvement, society pressure, changing traditional family structure due to globalization and diversity and practices. Growing age in boys, younger age in girls associated to food insecurity and poor school performance. In our culture, it has been observed that boys are supported by parents in their early stage of life as compared to girls. 4 studies showed risk factor for personality disorder, academic performance. Young adults in the same age are pressurized for achieving high grades and position, which induce anxiety and lead to depression and psychological distress. Please, next slide. 5 studies show protective factor for depression and anxiety among young adults. Early training, screenings, and treatment programs. Screening helps to identify the problems and provide treatment accordingly on time. Mental health program in school, such as awareness programs, activities related mental health. Semester system help to attain better career goals in comparison to annual system. It burdenizes due to long time duration. Education and guru plays protective role among transgender. as we know that we are living with our parents and dependent on them. Similarly, transgender are living with their gurus, so they are protective factor for them. Families and community support, social support, and sense of coherence are positive predictor of well-being in both individualistic and collectivistic cultures. Religiosity. In our country, mostly people have strong religious beliefs, so religiosity play a protective role. Salah, education, and mindfulness are helping for psychological distress. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nawaz. I would now request Dr. Mohammad Bilal to please lead the discussion session for us. Dr. Mohammad Bilal.
Thank you so much, Nawaz, for sharing the findings on the interplay of socio-cultural factors with the mental health in Pakistan. Certainly, it has been well established that socio-cultural denominators play a very important role, whether in hindering or promoting mental health for a very meaningful existence. However, it's certainly not an easy thing to define what is culture or what is cultural framework, and a lot of studies have been conducted, particularly in the mental health field, that how to define this. And if I may reflect on this very briefly, given the time constraint that we are having, and I would also like to have opinion about this thing from Dr. Nusrat, particularly Professor Naseem, and any other participants who want to add into this. That do you think that we need to reconceptualize life and the cultural factors or the cultural framework itself in Pakistan and generally when we conduct mental health? For example, earlier we were living life only geographically, but now we are also the digital citizens as well. And now we are not the part of communities only, but we are also the part of virtual communities where we construct, reconstruct, or deconstruct our lives. I was having a look on the figures, and there were around 77 million internet users with active 37 million users who use different platforms of social media. And social media is such a huge and such influential platforms. For example, when we talk about Twitter or TikTok or Instagram or Facebook or YouTube, they've been influencing young people's ideas. We have seen a very prominent example is in this regard, that is the radicalization of young people, not only in Pakistan, but across the globe. We have seen that media and social media have played a very important role. So this is my suggestion that, for example, when we talk about social media, the one prominent example that I've been seeing in this particular thing, as Dr. Nusrat has said in the beginning, that these are the preliminary studies, and certainly we have space to add on more things to it. So the politics we do, I personally know that certainly we have involved the political stakeholders into it, but we probably have not yet included politics as a socio-cultural factor into it. Because when we talk about social media space, for example, politics and the discussions that we do, for example, young people do a lot of discussions, even abuse, disagreements on social media, and it has a direct connection with the mental health and not only the politics per se. The way, for example, we discuss the traumatic events, the peer pressure being exerted from one to another on different social media platforms. So social media or the digital life is another kind of life that we or the young people are living, and which has a direct connection with the mental health. However, probably this has not been something that we have included in the socio-cultural factors, because this has also been contributing towards something which probably we called a crisis fatigue, or in other words, a national anxiety or depression, not only in form of political instability, but also involves certain kind of uncertainties and hopelessness among individuals. So the suggestion is that probably we could also include this into the socio-cultural factors, that how social space or digital lives, and what is the status of per se mental health in the digital world of our young people. And then we can conduct ethnographies as well, along with the ethnographies, to have a qualitative perspective in it. And now certainly I want to have opinion from Dr. Nusrat, Professor Naseem, and others in this regard, that how we can add digital life into socio-cultural realm as well. Thank you.
Naseem, do you want to make a start or response? Or
my response would be absolutely, because I think our interventions, awareness, and we have a huge platform where we can reach out to these young adults, not just in sort of urban areas, but far off. So people can just pick up a phone. So I mean, absolutely. And I think in the whole context of like today, substance misuse is a huge issue that's again, not sort of 10 years back, we are seeing a rapid increase. When we see these young adults, they have a life which was very different to what we've experienced. So we've got to acclimatize and change our thinking as well. So Nusrat, over to you. Those are my views. Yes, absolutely.
अच्छा, इसमें कुछ दो तीन चीजें हैं about this. One is culture की, obviously आपको मुझसे बहुत ज्यादा पता है कि definition ही यही है कि it continues to change. के उसका and तो the culture of our children is very जैसे नसीम ने कहा कि is quite different from ours. हमारे पास दो लोग इस वक्त मौजूद हैं यहाँ पे and I'll invite them to. एक हमारे पास इस वक्त हैं प्रोफेसर नजमी हैदर. He's head of computer sciences at NAD University में. He's kindly reached out to us and इनके इन्होंने कहा the whole department, we have had a meeting with his whole faculty and over the last few weeks we are developing research in this area and we are coming together. So one of the things is it's giving us an opportunity to work together. तो इसमें इनके colleagues हैं जो outside Pakistan भी हैं और पाकिस्तान में काफी हैं. So I'd request अगर Dr. Najmi thoda sa bol lein, uske baad I'll invite Dr. Nadeem Geere, jo he's done his PhD in this area and तो इनका काम दूसरे एक इनके पास प्रोफेसर ताहिर खलीली के डिपार्टमेंट में कुछ लोग बहुत अच्छा काम कर रहे हैं उसके ऊपर and looking at how do we come together and it's very important. Dr. Najmi, you would like to make a comment?
जी शुक्रिया. Thank you, Dr. Nusrat, and thanks to Phil for inviting me. We have basically मैं तो a lot of the stuff that is being discussed here is just going over my head, but technology point of view से मैं थोड़ा सा कुछ comment अपना कर सकता हूँ कि यहाँ पे technology जो है वो एक enabler है और इसको हम लोग फिर इस्तेमाल कर सकते हैं. We can use it for you know how to apply it in mental health disorder के लिए जो है, क्योंकि इसके अंदर टेक्नोलॉजी तो और भी एरियाज फिजिकल इलनेसेस में तो काफ़ी यूज्ड हुए. we are familiar, blood pressure, diabetes and so on. So recently अब जो है इसके अंदर काम जो है हो रहा है और there are apps that are available, काफ़ी सारे हैं that can help the users to cope with the symptoms and to be able to share their experiences, their stories, and to help in doing exercises and things like that, which will calm them, and repetitive actions हैं जो ये कर सकते हैं, which will help them. इसके besides benefiting the patients, इसमें जो data generate होगा, this will also be can be provided to the physicians and those domain experts who can make use of the data, since we are using our cell phones, smartphones आजकल हैं, and we are carrying them with us. So this data would be recorded and would be easily passed on. ये apps जो है apart from the depression, anxiety, अभी addiction की भी बात हुई थी, तो इसमें भी use हो सकता है. Addiction as point of poverty से related अगर comment हुआ था, I know someone who's in our faculty and someone related to them, well-off family सब कुछ है, and उसमें उनका ये addiction का issue है उनके family में, unfortunately for this person. And उसका ये कि who you associate with, the company that you keep is also बहुत ही important है इसके अंदर. इंटरनेट पोर्टल्स भी टेक्नोलॉजी पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से, एक तो ऐप्स है हमारे पास, फिर इंटरनेट पोर्टल्स हैं वेयर सपोर्ट ग्रुप्स जो है वहाँ ऑर्गेनाइज हो सकते हैं. सो दीज कैन बी यूज्ड टू कनेक्ट पीपल, पर्टिकुलरली जहाँ लोग probably anonymous भी होना चाहते हैं. They don't want to meet with people within their localities. तो ये भी use हो सकता है. Educational resources can be made available to them. और फिर another area is telehealth, जहाँ पे video conferencing can be used more effectively than just phone calls, because इसमें human connection bonding is more efficient in this way. Telehealth also can help to reduce the costs of the services and improve access to patients who either cannot or maybe they are not inclined to see a professional in this way. So this is what I just have to comment. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And just one last addition. To understand the role of digital culture, social media, internet spaces with mental health, if there would be required any ethnographic expertise, me and my department would certainly like to expand that in any research that Bill or related organization will be conducting in.
Brilliant. Dr. Bilal, can we ask Nadeem to make a comment?
Sure, please.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you, Professor Hussain and Dr. Bilal. So there has been an exponential increase in digital technologies globally. These have been, taken with considerable acceptability. It's very commonplace to see individuals, both in Pakistan, in the UK, globally, even if they don't have a smartphone, they may have a basic phone. So it becomes a very important driver of economic success. Why do I say that? For example, in the UK, we talk about this concept of digital inclusion. Why is digital inclusion important? It gives people an opportunity to access support, to access, certain services, and it also provides a voice for people. So you may have seen online that they have the change.gov petitioning. If we give young people a voice and a choice in the way that they are able to design mental health services in Pakistan, this is going to be an important driver of economic success. It is giving the next generation a voice. Yes, there are obviously quite correctly, there are the concerns around, the low self-esteem and the stigma. But what we need to do is we need to be mindful of these things, but at the same time engage with this population and provide them with the important means of empowering them so that we can take this important work forward. So as Professor Bilal has said, understanding the narrative, ethnography of digital space is going to be a hugely important piece of work, and understanding those factors will be a crucial part of the strategy, leveraging digital technologies for the next generation of more resilient youth in Pakistan. Thank you.
Thank you, Nadeem. Over to you, Samin.
Thank you so much, Mr. Bilal. Professor Nusrat, we were supposed to have our way forward now, and unfortunately, our MPA is having some internet connectivity issues. So if you could, I would request you to please lead the way forward session for us, please.
Acha, हमारे साथ we also have Professor Omar Farooq with us, and I wanted to, if he is able to, because food insecurity की काफी बात हुई है. So if Professor Saab is still here, so.
Ji sir, he's here. Sir, if you could kindly unmute your mic.
Assalamu alaikum. Dr. Nusrat, can you hear me?
जी बिल्कुल, थोड़ी कट रही है आवाज, लेकिन we can hear you.
Dr. Sir, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Okay. First of all, thank you, Dr. Nusrat, for providing me an opportunity to speak here. I have to give my views. as we are discussing about mental health, and from since childhood we are familiar with the slogan that a healthy body has a healthy mind. ये इंडिकेट करता है कि एक मतलब हेल्दी माइंड के लिए आपकी बॉडी यानी हेल्दी होना ऐसे होल बनने का जरूरी है। तो उसमें हम फूड सिक्योरिटी की बात कर रहे हैं, हम सोशल इश्यूज की बात कर रहे हैं। तो उसके साथ साथ मैं जिस तरफ तवज्जो दिलाना चाह रहा था वो ये कि अगर हम देखें तो सबसे पहले जो बच्चे की डेवलपमेंट है वो उसकी मदर मतलब की डाइट से रिलेट करती है।
I think on correction.
I think he's traveling somewhere, so he has some technical issues.
ठीक है.
Sir, sorry, I think that was.
You're back. You're back.
Sir, yes, I am back, sir. जी, तो मैं बात कर रहा था कि हम इसमें एक चीज और एस्पेक्ट भी ऐड करना चाहिए हमें अपनी एक्टिविटीज में कि जो प्रेगनेंसी के दौरान जो मदर की डाइट है और उस डाइट में स्पेशली मेरा एम्फेसिस है डाइट डाइवर्सिफिकेशन पे कि हमारा डाइट डाइवर्सिफिकेशन पे कोई मतलब काम नहीं अभी पाकिस्तान के अंदर, तो इस पे काम करने की जरूरत है कि कई ऐसे ये है हेल्थ इश्यूज हैं जो हम डाइट डाइवर्सिफिकेशन और डाइट इंटरवेंशन के जरिए सॉल्व कर सकते हैं। एक और दूसरा जो आप कई मतलब ये बात चल रही थी कोलैबोरेशन, तो रियली आई अप्रिशिएट योर वर्क कि आपने मल्टी स्टेक होल्डर्स को एक प्लेटफॉर्म पे इकट्ठा कर रहे हैं और मैं रियली आई अप्रिशिएट योर दिस एफर्ट। और उस हवाले से जैसा कि डॉक्टर एजाज मसूद साहब अभी यहाँ पे मौजूद नहीं है, तो हमने यहाँ पे मुल्तान में भी यही कल्चर डेवलप किया है कि हम न्यूट्रिशन और हेल्थ साइंसेज वाले मिल के काम कर रहे हैं। इवन कि हमने कंबाइंड डिग्री प्रोग्राम्स लॉन्च किए हुए हैं इसी कोलैबोरेशन के लिए। तो इस कोलैबोरेशन एज ए न्यूट्रिशनिस्ट हमारी जो भी सपोर्ट होगी वी आर ऑलवेज अवेलेबल फॉर एनी टाइप ऑफ वर्क सर।
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. हमारे we are have among us हमारी patient public engagement and involvement की lead Lubna Khan. Lubna Khan is also a mother of a young adult, lovely young man. तो थोड़ी सी बात प्रोफेसर ज़ैनब ज़ादे ने की थी about parenting. So if we could have some comments from Lubna, that would be wonderful.
Ji, Assalamu alaikum. Can you hear me, Nusrat? Can you?
Yeah, we can.
It's really heartening. I've been listening to this wonderful discussion, and it's really very encouraging to see such empathy and such good work being done. I'm doubly concerned because I'm a patient. I've suffered from bipolar depression for the longest time, and I think in our society every mental health patient is facing a double jeopardy. Ek to that you are sick and you have to struggle with that sickness, but the other thing is that the trauma and the shame of having it, because it is seen not as an illness. It is even in our elite society where people are educated, they should know better, it is considered as a weakness of character. हमेशा हम ये बच्चों को भी कहते हैं कि जैसे अगर बच्चों में कोई एंजाइटी थोड़ी सी कि क्या है शुक्र करो and you've got the best of everything, which this narrative has to change. And I think Dr. Anila ने जितना अच्छा उन्होंने बताया कि the school में जो एक advocacy, the counselor training, the sort of softening the teachers first of all and the parents in even accepting the fact, because हमारे यहाँ denial is so much there कि मेरे बच्चे में तो ये हो ही नहीं सकता. Even if I'm seeing something like an anxiety, because I suffer, maybe I'm oversensitive, but there are people who will knowingly कि बच्चे में कोई ऐसी परेशानी है या कोई depression है या or whatever they're struggling with, they will go out of their way to convince themselves and the child कि ऐसा कुछ नहीं है, and even the teachers, you know, it's everybody else but that person. So we need to do more and more in creating awareness and in creating acceptance. It's okay to have a mental health issue. It's all right. And I think social media की जैसे बात की डॉक्टर बिलाल ने, it's very very important कि हम उस पे मतलब एक मुझे लगता है कि मेंटल हेल्थ का वो इशू है जो वेस्ट में आई सपोज गे लोगों के का है कि coming out of the closet, because even now I think even I would be very hesitant to sort of open up a discussion in a social gathering कि जी मैं patient हूँ, मैं depression की दवा खाती हूँ, because suddenly then I'm going to be put in a block कि जी ये तो थोड़ी गई हैं या you know they're not everything is right with her. So something on that lines is very important.
Thank you very much, Lubna, for sharing itna personal bit. I think there have got to be more of us. मेरी immediate family में लोग antidepressants में hospital भी दाखिल हो चुके हैं. So अगर हम जो WHO की भी लें तो 1 in 4 people have mental health difficulty. ठीक है, तो यहाँ जितने लोग हम मौजूद हैं 20 में to coming forward to be able to say कि जी हाँ I am a expert by experience or yeah मेरा I've got this difficulty. I think we need to start coming forward with that. लोग poverty की बात करते हैं. I think जो हमारा biggest barrier है वो है this what we can call stigma. और लोग क्या कहेंगे, this keeping face, and that is as a group हमें उसकी भी बहुत कैंपेन चलाने की जरूरत है. अभी जिक्र किया था कैंपेन्स का अबाउट वायलेंस, आई थिंक ओवरऑल उसकी भी हमें इम्पोर्टेंट हमें आगे लेके चलना है. एंड आई एम श्योर इन योर लीडरशिप लोना we should be able to make progress on that. Dr. Neela, I saw that you were going to make a comment.
Yeah, exactly. Dr. Nusrat, if I just connect back with my previous comment, perhaps if we see a lot of research, it goes unnoticed. It is unpublished, in fact. And if we can pool in our resources, I mean, if the kind of researches we are doing currently, if we can share this data with you, so ultimately you can pool in kind of systematic reviews you are conducting. So it will give us a huge theoretical base to move forward towards what exactly is important in terms of which specific issue of mental health we need to address. And yes, I agree with Ms. Lubna, the kind of stigma which is associated with accessing services for mental health, this is something which all of us we are facing in one ways or others. And these days, especially when we are dealing with our clients who are suffering with COVID-related anxiety, so there is another term which is emerging. So it's about COVID-related stigma which we are dealing with. So if we talk about the services which we have currently in our part of the world, the access to private and public hospital services, it's really too expensive to go for private facilities for accessing mental health sort of like services like counseling and psychotherapy. So other than awareness, one thing which is really important for our community is to provide access to services, access to mental health facilities, so that people they can benefit out of it.
Thank you. Dr. Saab has done an excellent job. इन्होंने हेल्पलाइन COVID-19 के लिए बड़ा अच्छा ग्रुप ऑर्गेनाइज किया हुआ है. So आपकी बात बिल्कुल ठीक थी कि we are not really talking to each other. और प्रोफेसर नसीम ने जो कहा कि how do we bring it together, जब भी जो फ्रेमवर्क की हमने बात की, अगर समीन if you are able to bring that slide, हमारे पास 5 मिनट हैं, लेकिन अगर हम उसको थोड़ा सा देख लें तो उसमें of the framework, one of the main areas we want to focus is knowledge exchange, dissemination, partnerships and collaboration. तो अगर ये भी जो है ये one of the section है ये जो youth का है, तो ये जो सारे हमारे हैं from preconception pregnancy till older adults, उन सबको ये 7 areas में करना है. और जो हम reaching out कर रहे हैं लोगों के पास is because the task is huge. We are talking about more than 200 million people. And if it cuts across all the areas of our life, sustainable development goals, तो इसमें हमें जरूरत है, जैसे I'm hoping कि अस्मा नदीम हमें legislation and human rights में guide कर सकेंगी along with Lubna. फिर ये तो एक पार्ट है उसका कि हमने जो रिसर्च अप्रोच प्रायोरिटी और ऑनगोइंग सर्वेलेंस रखनी है, ताकि हमें नीड्स असेसमेंट करते रहें कि हमारी क्या प्रायोरिटी है. कि इफ इट्स द पोस्ट कोविड सिंड्रोम अगर हमें कर रहा है इस वक्त, हाउ डू वी स्विच दैट प्रायोरिटी टू दैट, मोबिलाइज द रिसोर्स. फिर वर्कफोर्स डेवलपमेंट इज ह्यूजली इंपॉर्टेंट. और वर्कफोर्स डेवलपमेंट में ये है कि जैसे अभी डॉक्टर बिलाल ने कहा कि इनका डिपार्टमेंट इज अवेलेबल अराउंड दिस, जो कि हम डेवलप कर रहे हैं प्रोफेसर नजमी के साथ, कि वी वुड बी डूइंग लुकिंग एट दैट क्वालिटेटिव वर्क, एंड डॉक्टर बिलाल वी वुड लव टू हैव यू इन दैट ग्रुप. तो स्टार्टिंग टू लुक एट दैट. अच्छा, हमें हमारे साथ प्रोफेसर करीम है कि फाइनेंसिंग एंड बजटिंग, वी नीड टू गो विद सॉल्यूशंस टू द गवर्नमेंट. गोइंग देयर एंड के अगर हम कहें कि जी हमारा बजट बढ़ा दें, तो वो कहें कि जी ये बच्चे जो डायरिया से मर रहे हैं, मैं उनको बचाऊं या मैं आपको पैसे दे दूं. So we have got to go with solutions as well. कि ये देखिए ये कॉस्ट इफेक्टिव है, इससे डिसेबिलिटी इतनी कम होगी, पैसा यहाँ सेव होगा, एंड दैट इज हाउ इट कैन कम इनटू. सो एज अ ग्रुप हमें ये देखना है, और आप लोग जो बताएंगे कि जी इसको भी इंक्लूड कर लो, इसको भी इंक्लूड कर लो, and we'd reach out to them and we would say कि हमें हमारे साथ इसमें मिलके काम करें. और बहुत सी इसमें हेल्थ सर्विसेज एसेट मैपिंग की भी है. सो एसेट इज जैसे जो आपने सारा स्कूल्स में काम किया है, आपकी यूनिवर्सिटी इज एन एक्सीलेंट यूनिवर्सिटी, हाउ टू बी एबल टू डू दैट. तो अब हम लोगों ने करना ये है कि हम आप सबको रीच आउट करेंगे, एंड वी आर गोइंग टू से कि भाई हमें ये अचीव करना है. आवर नेक्स्ट मीटिंग इंशाल्लाह इज गोइंग टू बी इन मार्च, लेकिन बिटवीन नाउ एंड मार्च हम इन 7 एरियाज पे काम कर रहे होंगे, हम लोग सब मिलके इंशाल्लाह. एंड द आइडिया इज कि हम इससे काफी आगे मौजूद हों, दैट वी स्टार्ट टू टॉक अबाउट सॉल्यूशंस और पॉलिसी में क्या इंक्लूडेड होगा इन 7 एरियाज में, हु इज गोइंग टू टेक अ लीड ऑन इट, सो दैट जब हम जुलाई में मिले तो हमारे पास काफी तैयार हो वो चीज, कि जिसमें हम ज्यादा लोगों को बुलाएंगे जुलाई में, बिकॉज इट वुड बी द टाइम कि हम फाइनलाइज करना शुरू करेंगे जो हमने अक्टूबर में प्रेजेंट करनी है, पॉलिसी एंड इम्प्लीमेंटेशन प्लान. सो दैट इज द बैक टू यू Naseem for wrapping up.
Nusrat, amazing session. Extremely grateful to all our panelists, hamare chairs. I mean, this is a dream come true. Everybody so passionate, everybody willing to give their time and wanting to do more. I would also suggest कि अगर लोगों को कोई special जैसे है ना कि oh no, I want to just work on these 2 areas, please email us, please get involved from now. जैसे नुसरत ने कहा, huge task. Pill University of Manchester cannot just do it on its own. Thank you everybody, amazing session. Nusrat, in the end, thank you again. तुम्हारा इतना difficult time है and you're here with us, so hats off to you. Allah Hafiz, stay safe, Khuda Hafiz.